So what do we need to do as BAs in this context, in this kind of activity? We would need to make sure that we have clearly specified the assumptions. We need to identify, not only identify, but also specify, not just specify, but also validate our assumptions at this stage. We cannot leave assumptions, hanging loose there. So we must make sure that we have got clear understanding of what assumptions that we have laid upon. Are those assumptions valid now? So we need to validate those assumptions, and that's very important. And then sometimes it could be unprecedented, some things which we have not done before, some things totally new for us. Still, we need to, cater to those requirements and cater to those as something that must be, addressed. And then we should also try and come up with some kind of measurable criteria. What are the ways that we can try and assess these requirements? How can we make sure that we have got the requirements in the right place? Out of these, the product backlog of thousands of items in the backlog, requirements, changes, defects, and the new ideas, how can we try and shortlist some of those? On what basis? What are the prioritization parameters? We need to have some kind of idea at this point of time. And then we need to obviously get an alignment with the solution scope. So that's what is important. So this again need to be looked at in the context of where do we want to go from here. We can't just create hundreds and thousands of requirements without checking which direction we are going. We need to have a clear idea where we want to go. What are we trying to develop? If we're trying to develop a customer relationship management product, a system, then all your requirements that you've been capturing need to address that. It cannot be anything different from what we have set out our scope as, our vision as. It needs to fulfill that vision. Each of these requirements that you have been gathering, that you've been trying to specify here, needs to map and point you to that direction. That needs to be the north. That particular solution scope is your indicator, is the way that you should try and go. And that is the direction which you must follow. Everything else is can be ignored safely because they're not fitting in the context of what we want to set out for. And who are the stakeholders here in this context of the validation of requirements? You have got, first, I would say that you need to first look at all the potential stakeholders. More so, you need to work with, for example, we talked about testers and all those. Still, they're valid. They're very much important. But you also need to work with the customers, your end users, sponsors, all of these, again, like project manager, who actually give you the kind of the perspective with respect to the communication with other stakeholders, and having a sense of the project perspective, the milestones, the resources. So again, very important for us to have a blend of different stakeholders and how we can engage them. So again, the domain SME, I don't want to really go on and on, repeat the same thing, but very important, like how we've been talking about before as well, the problem perspective, or the needs, opportunities, and from the industry point of view, the business rules, all of those would be provided by the domain SME. The end users give the perspective of the usage context, very rich, because no matter how much the rest of the stakeholders say, the end users, provide you the contextual, rich data in terms of how the product would get used in the place, at the time, the way it is designed for. So that's very, very, very important. And the implementation SME would obviously, as we discussed before as well, give you the perspective about the solution in terms of how the solution could be implemented, what could be the ways, the approaches, the techniques, the tools we can use, and what are the implications about that. Project manager, and obviously it gives you a sense of authority, sense of managerial aspect about it. The sponsors would give you the aspect of how the budgets need to be managed. Are we going out of the budget? What is the vision? Are we aligned with the overall organizational vision? And obviously testers, very handy to again validate whether this particular requirement is in line with the original scope and in line with the overall vision and mission of the project.